Obviously, smartphones have been a big, what do you call this? Big part of our culture way since the invention or the popularity of Nokia phones way back in the 90s. And obviously, it has brought tremendous benefit and accessibility in terms of communication, usability, and so forth. But obviously, one of the downsides of using a smartphone is, and especially if you try to do too much, doing multitasking tasks, especially when driving, can be dangerous and catastrophic, and could be caught in an accident, and lives could be lost and so forth. Well, now UK is now considering using of smartphones or mobile phones while driving as illegal, and you can face up to almost $300, $269 when you are caught here. Let's see here. So obviously, safety is the number one issue here that everyone is trying to focus here. That no one wants to be in an accident, be injured, or even die. The worst case scenario here. But is it enough to change the behavior of people when obviously one of the reasons when they go into an accident is not just being distracted, but is the car moving too fast? And obviously it's a symptom of a bigger problem, and addressing minor issues doesn't necessarily address the biggest issue here, which is the safety here. And obviously, even the government who announced it that the ban of handheld. Actually, my question here is, would they still allow drivers to answer phones using their Bluetooth? Obviously, they're not touching the phone. They can use voice command. Obviously, we haven't reached to that point in some cases here. So obviously, the point here is to car safety here, not just for the passenger, the driver, as well as people on the streets here, which is kind of dangerous here. Anyway, the implementation will be effective sometime next year. So they will ban those drivers who play games or scroll their music playlist while driving. So obviously, it gives opportunity for companies to develop better products in terms of being able to use voice command or air gestures, or actually more on voice command, typical how like in Star Trek films, you see the computer is able to do what the user is asking. Computer, turn off lights. Computer, turn on lights, and so forth. So can we reach that point that I think we have the technology here, obviously, for companies to develop it and integrate it in our vehicles, and that's the onus on our car manufacturers here. And obviously, making cars more safe is one thing, but providing more features, not just safety for the drivers, but also for the car that it inhibits in terms of its roads, pedestrian, motorcycles, and even cyclists on the roads here. And question is, it goes beyond addressing, limiting or banning, what do you call this? Banning usage of phones in vehicles here. So prohibiting the use of mobile phones and our devices while driving. Now, violators will be punished if they are caught in the act. Okay. Now, obviously, punishing people for doing dangerous stuff, will it get the intended result, which is, will it lead to less incidents, less deaths here? I think that's why the problem is more symptomatic, and there's a bigger problem that they need to address here. And I think one of the main issues here, as mentioned, is that cars are moving too fast. So it's not just being distracted, and again, calling Tesla, trying to market something that is not yet capable of being fully autonomous, making the driver even more distracted to the point of being complacent, relying too much on technology, which it hasn't reached to that point, can be dangerous here. And obviously, there will be less accidents, deaths, if cars are not moving that fast. And I've recently watched a channel who was highlighting how the Netherlands urban planning was tremendous in terms of being car friendly as well as bicycle friendly for people to move about, moving from one place to another, making it safe for an environment. And ensuring that vehicles that are drivers who are driving their vehicles on the roads are focused, attentive on actually driving. So which lessens the distraction and lessens the chances of being in an accident. And obviously we want to avoid it if it's possible, but obviously making roads, not necessarily making the roads wider, is not necessarily the better solution here. And as the Netherlands have shown, creating chicanes, more turns, making one lane rather than two lanes, so that drivers are more attentive, so that it would cause less accidents, so that people are focusing on the driving. Now, what Tesla is doing, if they can achieve it in the future, which is not anytime soon, if fully autonomous is possible, then you can 100% rely on the technology, then I'm all for it. But I think for the meantime, we're still a long ways in terms of reaching that capability here. And I think Elon Musk marketing that the car is ready is a big being irresponsible in a sense. I think even their engineers have already mentioned that Elon Musk is overreaching in terms of its capability here, not taking away of its impact of providing electric vehicles for the mass market, which is another discussion altogether here. But going back to the point here, and obviously the government needs to do more and understand what causes an accident. Is it just being distracted? Is it the road conditions? Obviously a human being is not perfect and we have limitations, and I think government has to understand that, so that we can make a better safe environment, not just for vehicles but for people who are outside of the vehicle, because people inside the cars are safe in a sense, because if it's between a bicycle or a pedestrian, obviously those people will be always in an advantage compared versus a vehicle here. And at the end of the day, we want everyone to be safe, and people should have option as to what types of modes of transportation they prefer, whether walking, riding a bike, public transportation, or even a vehicle here. We should have that flexibility or option here. And obviously encouraging, it would look kind of counterintuitive. Limiting cars on the road would help increase safety, and have a better ecosystem with roads, peoples, and vehicles, and etc. here. But obviously it's a more daunting task here, because obviously change is not something everyone is willing to do, and especially it needs substantial change here if we want to make our roads more safer. Not necessarily, I don't know, based on what was discussed and what I've read, that making the roads wider, we have a perception that we have little to no perception of how fast the vehicle are moving. But if you make it very narrow, or there are turns that you have to make, so we have this better perception of it's too narrow, we need to drive slower, so we don't we don't get involved in an accident, and so forth, or even our cars getting involved in an accident or bumping to other people and so forth.